Senator Britt from Alabama is recognized.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you so much for being here, Mr. Director. I wanted to touch on several issues that you and I have discussed and wanted to see if you could provide some updates. So first, I have noted with you, both publicly and privately, my serious concerns about 1071. Concerns on both the privacy front and then the actual cost burden on the smallest community banks. So wanted to kind of let's just start on privacy first. You mentioned that the CFPB plans to publish the information it collects on this rule. Last time I kind of asked what your plans were for that. You said you had not gotten there yet. Do you have any update on that?
So the data collection that would be reported has been significantly delayed. Some of it will be as late as, I think, maybe late 2026. We're not going to make any determinations until after we really are able to conduct a first, world-class privacy assessment.
Okay, good.
So the key is we don't want anyone re-identification risk. We don't want there to be any concerns about that because that will really undermine enormously.
Yeah, and so you are essentially, will you commit to me that the CFPB will not publish any identifying information?
Correct, yes.
Wonderful, thank you so much. Okay, now with regards to the cost, CFPB estimated that banks will face an upfront cost of around $45,000 to $78,000. Do you believe that's still an accurate depiction of the upfront compliance costs that banks should expect?
So we're working with many of those banks are going to be using third-party vendors in order to be able to implement this, those core service providers. So we are working with them. There is going to be a bit more time.
But
so
do you think that cost is correct?
To the best of my knowledge, that we use the best data as possible.
Yeah, so that data, so if you look to it, it says that, these things have to cover things like new computer software to collect and store data, to hire and train new compliance and legal staff, the expenses of possibly third-party audits and legal teams. And so that just seems like there's no way that you could do all of that with just that amount of money. And then I looked back to when that estimate was done, and the estimate was done in 2020. And obviously since 2020, we've had a change in economic conditions, change in a number of things, whether it's inflation or hiring cost or any of those things. And so when you kind of take a step back, and then additionally, and you and I have talked about this, Dodd-Frank required 13 data points. It is my opinion that you have now expanded that to 81. I know that you and I can quibble about some of those things, but no doubt it is certainly more than 13. And so there's also an additional compliance mechanism that that in 2020 we weren't accounting for. So economy, additional data, et cetera. So when you look at that, I think when you take a step back, there's no way that they're going to be able to do all of that for just $45,000 to $78,000. And so my question to you is will you commit to taking a look and making sure that that is an accurate cost analysis of what it's going to cost these banks?
Well, I think we're trying to follow all appropriate provisions of the law when it comes to this. This was not a discretionary rule. We were under a court order to complete it. We followed all the necessary steps to do it.
But you did expand it, though. I mean, there is...
Well, actually, we didn't. I wouldn't characterize it as expanding it. The statute is pretty clear about what sort of data points had to be in there and where might it better contextualize the information. In fact, we got input from some industry members to include some data points to make sure that it's appropriately contextualized.
Well, but if you even think about things that people are going to have to put in there, denial reasons, obviously a more extensive explanation there, pricing information, including interest rates applied, prepayment, penalties, financial cost, et cetera. There's no doubt that in 2020, prior to you even being obviously at the CFPB, that analysis of how much that was going to cost doesn't take all of these things into consideration. And I would just ask you, you have said that obviously it is not your goal to put small community banks out of business. And you have said that you understand that they provide an essential service in our Main Street, that they allow people to achieve the American dream. What I am asking you is don't put them out of business. Make sure that you are taking a step back, really looking at how much this is going to cost them in 2024, in 2025, in 2026, that you're giving them that assessment on the front end so that they can plan. So that it actually doesn't hinder them in the long run. So I would greatly appreciate it if you you would do that, make sure that that's accurate, because I think that that's what's ultimately best for everyday Americans, everyday Alabamians, as people work to comply with this. So thank you very much.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks.